Okay.
Loading.
Oh yeah, now it's live.
Shit. Okay. Hopefully my internet is not. Oh my god,
What?
it's already live.
Yeah.
I guess it's live now. Haha. Okay. Why do we always have this problem like at the beginning of the video? Like we don't have a smooth transition like
Yeah.
hello. So I was like, are we live? Okay. Hi guys, good morning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know we're all tired,
Yeah.
but today's topic is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna introduce it. So basically, the three of us, we live in different countries right now, but all of us share one common, ground, which is like we are all born in Indonesia, right? So the topic today is about living abroad. Basically, what it's like to live as I guess, an immigrant. I think we're counted as immigrants. So I guess to start, let's just kind of introduce us, like where we live now and where we're from, like the exact place in Indonesia, so that they have context. Um, I currently live in San Jose, California, which is like a small town, not really a small town, close to San Francisco. I think people know that city way better. And I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia. What about you guys?
Uh, I'm currently living in Singapore, which is like it's pretty close to where I came from, which is Indonesia, in Jakarta, the same as Sharon. And yeah, I've been living here for about 4 years since I returned. Um, yeah, chick.
Me.
Chick.
um, I am living in Berlin, Germany, and I am from Surabaya, Indonesia. And I think it's pretty rare op- that anyone from Surabaya is living abroad, I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
really?
rare to meet anyone from
You mean
Surabaya.
you
Maybe
mean
it's,
like Berlin or like?
yeah, in Germany, or like, I mean, among us is also like, well, there's also another friend of us that's also from
Mhm.
Surabaya. But
Oh,
other than
wow.
that, everyone's from Jakarta, right? I
Oh,
think.
I see. I see what you
Yeah.
I see. I think
Yeah.
okay.
mean.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can talk about too, like today, just kind of like understanding how we, I guess, not only assimilate into the culture of the country itself, but also like
Mm-hmm.
how do we manage to, I guess, find our community that
Mm-hmm.
represents where we're from, like, and that's a very interesting point. So I guess other than like where we are now, like I think it's also useful to like understand like what are you doing there? Like what is the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of you going there and why did you pick that country in the first place? You know, I think we can start with Haryani since she's been there for quite a while.
Not very long. I mean, I felt that 4 years flies, time flies. It's just like, just suddenly you just realize, wow, you've been living here for 4 years. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently working in Singapore. I returned, I mean, I studied before here. I actually lived here for during secondary school with you guys
Mhm.
for about 3 years as well before I moved to Melbourne for university, and then I returned here uh, like around 2016 for work. And I think one of the reason why I would like to return Singapore is because it's pretty close to my home country, Jakarta, and you can actually easily go back. Before this COVID-19, I actually returned quite often. Like you can actually just spend a weekend back in your home country and then meeting your parents. And I think it's quite important to me. Like I felt like I'd like to be independent, meaning living alone, but then I don't want to be like totally free. I don't think I'm actually there to live that far away from your family.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
felt like I have a lot of friends, have quite a few good friends here that is living here. And yeah, I guess that's one of the main reason why I actually returned
Yeah, I totally
to.
agree. I mean, like, I
Yeah,
lived there for like with you guys, right? And then like it's definitely like one of those places that feels different to our home country, but also, like feels close. I don't know. Like there's so many. There is
true.
just a very diverse country too. Like there's people from all over the place in the world. So it's a very nice like spot definitely to just like settle down. Plus that country is just like really nice. I mean, I haven't been back to Singapore in a long time, and like holy shit, like they're so nice. Everything is just so nice in Singapore. But anyway, for me, I don't know. I feel like I couldn't make up my mind where I kind of wanted to like end up for university or college. And I tried studying in Australia for a little bit, and
Yeah.
it wasn't just like I don't know. I just didn't feel like I had the best experience there, so that like it was very quick for me to say, I want to try a different country. And I feel like at that time, like my little self was like, I want to work for NASA, like all these like dreamy ideas, which is like not what is really happening now. But I guess like, the closest for me to like achieve that is by actually going to America and getting my education there. So I've been here for actually quite a while. I just realized when you told me that you live in Singapore for 4 years, I
Yeah,
actually came here in 2011. So it's almost
exactly.
9 years. I mean, it's 9 years already.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I came here to study, and then I started working after I graduated. So I just been like here. Oh, I'm also currently applying for a green card, permanent resident. So I guess that's the next step. What about you, Chick?
Didn't realize that you stayed there for 9 years. That's
I
like a
know.
really
Sometimes
long
I don't
time.
remember. Usually I'm like, oh yeah, I've been here for like yeah for quite a while, and I'm like, wait a minute, 2011, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, for me, I've been living here in Germany since 2015. So after our time in Singapore, I went back to Surabaya, and then um, yeah, it was like quite a hard time living back home.
Mhm.
And then I just decided, yeah, this is after I finished my bachelor and stuff. I just felt like I think it's time for me. I was still like at a young age, and I want to travel more and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I decided,
Mhm.
yeah, why not just go continue my studies, take master degree somewhere else. And I heard that Germany is pretty um, affordable in
Mhm.
terms of
Mhm.
the studies and living costs. So yeah, it wasn't really like easy time because at first there was like a lot of it looks like there are a lot of opportunities for me to study here in English, but I tried to apply to so many
Mhm.
courses that I didn't get until I really have to also improve on my German and until the highest level. And
Yeah.
then I finally got yeah, a place, a master studies in Bremen. And then yeah, and then now I already graduated last year. It's actually just last year, but I feel like I've been working as well at the same time as yeah, during my studies. And
Oh, okay.
I've I've been I mean I used to work at the same place for 2.5 years apparently until recently in last June. So yeah, I'm trying my luck here again.
Mhm.
And I really want to stay here. So
Aren't we all?
yeah.
Well, that's nice. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't, to be honest, like I was glad that you didn't end up going to a university that converses in English because
Mm-hmm.
now you know an extra
Yeah.
language. I think that's like something I want to have. Like I only know two languages, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually a
Yeah.
very courageous thing to do, like moving to a
Mm-hmm.
country with
Yeah.
I mean with non-English as a main language
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also insane to think how a person can change or learn new skill just within a couple of years. Like I remember
See, I
talking.
wish I could have that kind of, I always want to learn a new language, but I just like even before you
Uh-huh.
start learning, you're just like, I think I'll never be able to do it. It's too difficult. But actually, if you actually jump to it right
Yeah.
away, maybe I could have like
Mm-hmm.
masters
Yeah.
mastered new language.
So have you ever experienced any culture shock? Well, what uni? I mean, it's I don't know if there's like any so much different than.
Yeah, probably. I mean, probably to me, it's not as much as you guys, because you guys are living in a country where Asians are the minority. But whereas for me, in Singapore, I'm still considered as like Asian Chinese, and we're still like like majority here, and I think culture shock is it's definitely this to a certain extent, yes. When you first moved back here, even though you've lived here before, you still kind of need to readapt to the situation here, and then when you first started working, you still need to adapt. I mean, you still need to try to fit in with the locals, colleagues, like um because there's also, I mean, in the office, obviously there's not a lot of Indonesians as well, and mostly they're actually locals, and then you still gotta need to readjust your behavior and your
Mm-hmm.
attitude in order for you to actually fit in with them. So but I think that's like the most thing that I can think of, um for me,
Mm-hmm.
since Singapore is still a very much like a home to me, like a second home to me as well. Other than that, I feel like it's not considered as like much of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but maybe you guys can share a little bit more about how is it in the United States and Germany. I bet that's uh,
Yeah.
more challenging.
You know what's funny? I was like thinking when you were telling the story, right? Like, okay, yeah, America, Western culture and everything. Definitely culture shock. Like I can't recall like, the minuscule culture shock that I experienced because it's quite a long ago, but like um I just feel like, Jakarta, or like maybe even Surabaya, like the big cities in Indonesia, like they're just so known to be like those cities that are developing, and like they're like very proud of their Eastern values, but at the same time they're like so wanna be like Western values as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They like
Yeah.
try to. I don't know how to say it. Like I don't know if that sounds controversial, but like I definitely feel like Jakarta now at least is like it almost feels like you're here. Like there's almost like there's a slight difference. Like obviously like um I don't know. I guess I really want to say this in Indo because I read it somewhere, like in literature, Indonesian literature. But it's like Jakarta is like the epitome of like um, apa namanya, ketimur-timuran tapi juga pengen banget ke barat-baratan. Like
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling. But anyway, I feel like the first thing that that makes me notice that I'm no longer in my home country is definitely how people easily talk to each other like on the street.
Yeah.
Like they just talk to strangers and they say
Mm-hmm.
small talks. They say things like, how you doing? Like whenever, I think this is like a small one, but like, going to school and you have like your classmate saying casually like, hey, what's up? And I actually don't know how to answer to that. Like I didn't know, like, what do you mean what's up? Like we never say things like that, like apa kabar? Like it's a very insignificant talk, and we don't I don't
Yeah.
I don't know if like Indonesians are actually, I mean, it's probably seen as like more of like a, what are you doing, like don't talk to me. kind of like feel like,
Yeah.
I feel like Asians like more genuine conversation. I mean, genuine conversation doesn't always mean like real, but like, at least more than just like, hey, what's up? Because a lot of these people here, like, how's your weekend? And they don't actually mean like, how's your weekend? They literally just say it,
Yeah.
as a passing, and then
Yeah.
I start talking about my weekend, and then I realized that that was not what they meant. Like they literally just, how's your weekend? So it was really interesting to see how like they're, I guess the word for it is more individualistic. A lot of it's
Mhm.
like about how I feel. Like, it's good in a lot of ways. I learn a lot. It's just that um, very rarely I feel like they use words like gotong royong, kerjasama. It's like always
Yeah.
like, we're with each other. There is like, you have
Mhm.
to kind of like value yourself and protect your own whatever,
Mhm.
like rights and this and that. So yeah, I think that's just like one of the basic thing that I realized.
Mhm.
What about you, Chick, in Berlin?
I mean, my first city in Germany was Bremen, and I think, I mean, I learned a lot about before when I was still learning about the language, but then like they also taught you about the culture, about the people, like like what's appropriate small talk with a German
Mm-hmm.
person. Like for example, they just gonna talk about the weather, about the price of
Yeah.
fruits at the market, or the price of gas. It's just like okay. They also talk, yeah, and
As
I
a
was
guest, oh my
yeah,
god.
and Bremen is in the North Germany, so the people there. So this is kind of like a stereotype. I guess people are a bit are like basically all Germans. I would say just like yeah, just like the
Uh-huh.
stereotype was that they are very unfriendly, like they keep you at arm's length,
Mm. Mm.
which is like sometimes it's true. Like, but then it depends on. But then as I learned, as I live here for a while, I learned that it's not everyone's like that. But sometimes also I will be also be understanding if this
Mm-hmm.
person is like like super strict, super timid, and then like
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's probably just because like that's how you're raised or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I think yeah, the first thing that I realized that I'm not in my home country. Probably the opening hours of stores
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
are so different here because
Oh my god, yeah.
here in a lot of not just in Germany but a lot of European cities they are closed on Sundays and stores are open from 10 to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I mean it's good that you can't really shop like you prepare like you have to schedule your time really well if you really want to go to a store and shop. Other than that, I would say that people here really take pride of their bread.
Bread?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's insane that I think that's something that I really miss from Indonesia is the soft bread, just like the basic white
How's German
bread.
bread? German
It's
bread. Let me Google it.
I don't want to say that it's bad. It's just it's different. It's really solid bread and people just eat
Oh,
it
It's like a
really.
baguette, no?
these
It's
are the
like a
bread.
baguette, but like a baguette is long, but this is like
Yeah.
just
I,
yeah.
I I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like this is the Instagram bread. Like people are making this all over Instagram. Like
Yeah,
I don't
like
know. It's just like it looks nice
sourdough
though.
bread. No,
Sourdough.
no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, I see.
But it's insane that how people like it's very hard on the outside, right?
Outside.
Mm-hmm,
And
Yes.
mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I was really amazed how people can just eat it like they made it like a sandwich. So it's
Right, right.
and they eat it so fast. I'm like, how is it that your teeth are not breaking? Um,
That's
yeah,
culture shock. You'll be like,
and, culture shock.
culture shocked. You
And
know, actually, this is not so much of like what I noticed earlier, but more like now, is that like the food culture is very different. I feel like I really
mhm,
miss Indonesian food culture.
yeah,
Okay, like, and Singapore too. Like,
oh
imagine
yeah,
going to like, do you remember Chom Chom when
Yeah,
we were like all living in Serangoon
it's
at
our
12?
favorite. Yeah.
Exactly, 12
yeah,
a.m. And then we were like eating literal carbs and like,
yeah,
gallons of Milos
yeah,
and like Horlicks. And then here, just like after 11, you have maybe like McDonald's, maybe, like those burgers, like kind of, you know, what do you call
mhm,
that? Fast food. So
yeah,
it's like, and then the street are empty too. I mean,
yeah,
if you go
same,
to like the only places that are packed at that time are probably like nightclubs or like,
mm,
bars that are open till late.
mhm,
But it's not the same. Like, I feel like in Indonesia, like at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., after you go clubbing, let's say, right? You want martabak, it's there. And it is like
mm.
on the street. It's like so just like fresh and everything. Like that's the type of everybody is just so friendly. Everybody's on,
Mhm,
outside, just like
mhm,
enjoying their time. Here, I don't know. I really miss that about Indonesia, I think. Like
Sure.
I feel like where I live in particular too is that people go out and then go home. Like a lot of them, like,
okay,
you don't see people on the street. I don't know if this is the same in Berlin. Like they don't really do. I feel like the best word to describe it is like they don't really do like Asian squats outside, just like chilling, with like cigarettes in their
oh yeah.
hands. You
Oh,
know,
this is something different um, from Berlin and other German cities. Is that we have we have a lot of kind of mini marts or 7-Eleven,
Mm.
and you can just and they are open 24 hours. I mean, they say like 23 hours or something. And the people here in Berlin especially, they really love to hang out outside, like at a park
Oh.
and
Yeah.
also on the street, like just
Mm.
drink beers and
Mhm.
have cigarettes, stuff like that. So I think, yeah, that's something that you won't see much in other cities in Germany.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow. So
but yeah.
after you hear all that, like, can you actually think of like one thing that makes you feel like it's that puts
It,
differentiates Singaporeans and Indonesians very largely?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably not considered as a culture shock, but it's actually definitely a like a marked differences that I can point out between Indonesia and Singapore is about the public transportation. Like
Mhm.
this is actually one of the reasons why I'm actually more mobilized in Singapore because I'm like a public transport girl. I go everywhere by public transport. Whereas Indonesia, I mean I can't drive in Indonesia, so practically every time I return I'm immobilized
Mhm.
unless someone can actually pick me up and fetch me and send me everywhere. Whereas in Singapore, public transport are readily available everywhere you are. It's always there, and I mean, you buses and like MRT. So you are kind of used to go around by yourself. You don't have
Yeah.
to think about
Yeah.
like how to get like about the transport. Whereas in Indonesia, I always have a difficulty to arrange to coordinate transportation every time I make plans with your friends or to
Mhm.
be there.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's probably not a culture shock, but it's definitely something that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
How's the MRT doing? I mean, I don't know. Like the last time I was in Jakarta, the MRT was so nice. It was
I
really
know.
nice. Like it
I
was comparable to
I
Singapore.
actually haven't tried.
It's
Yeah.
really nice. I mean,
I know, but I've heard. I mean, the last time I was there, I've heard that the MRT was actually only for the central, the CBD area. That's only located around there. Whereas where I live is still pretty far. So in order for me to actually
yeah,
get there,
you have
you
to.
still,
Mhm.
yeah. Um.
I know that's kind of funny actually. Anyway, anything else you want to share on culture shock? I feel like there's so much, but we
Yeah.
can take forever.
True. Right. Right.
No? Okay. We can move on to the next point. What else do we want to talk about?
Okay, so basically the next one, I'd like to ask about what do you actually learn about stereotypes about Indonesian? Uh, I mean, where you guys live, like where you live, did you actually, did you actually expect the local people in where you live to actually be familiar with our culture, or does anybody have something to share on that?
I don't know if it's just me, but like a lot of the non-locals, I mean, a lot of the locals here, I guess, didn't actually know where Indonesia is.
Oh
No,
yeah, yeah.
seriously, it is so weird. I was like, huh? I'm like, where are you from? I mean, obviously, like the majority of the immigrants here come from, obviously China, India, the biggest population in the world,
Yeah.
and then you have like Vietnamese, Philippines. I mean, Vietnam, Philippines, and then I think everything else is kind of like a minority, like really, really small minorities, like the Laotian, the Cambodians, the Thai. And then Indonesian is kind of like, a small percentage as well. So like I went to school with very small Indonesian student population. So I know that because I first went to a school with probably the largest Indonesian population in the whole country. I'm not joking. And then I'm like, whoa, like so many Indonesian friends. And then I moved to a different one. And then suddenly there was like maybe 3 of them, 4 of them, and they're like all spread it out. And then it's like, like the typical couple that is like been couples since they were in Indonesia.
Yeah.
And they're like
It's
always
always
together.
together.
Yeah. And then there's like maybe
Yeah.
one over here. And then whenever like we're in a class, like you just kind of like browse around like, oh my god, you're Indonesian. Yeah, I'm Indonesian. And then we just, that's how we find each other. But like everybody else are locals. And then I mean, I don't want to, I guess I have to stereotype, but like, because I went to a community college and it is in San Francisco, it's just known that people that, go to community college, unless they're international, they're also just people that unfortunately, cannot afford university fees because it's expensive. Like a lot of people go to community college to save money, which is really, really smart in my opinion. And so maybe a lot of them are also not as exposed, to like the world. I mean, that just kind of like makes sense. So it's actually really nice to be able to like be the first Indonesian person that they know. They're like, Indonesia? Is that near the Philippines? Like they would say something or like, is that near something? They just kind of like throw a country, and I'd be like, no, but this is. And then the one that know obviously would know Bali first. Like, oh, that's where Bali is. And then they'd be like, isn't Indonesia like super beautiful? And that's like a very common sense. And I'm like, yeah, it is beautiful, but it's like extremely diverse. And obviously the more ignorant one, and I'm not mad about that, they would like totally, they assume all developing countries to be like run down, just like
Yeah. No
poor people
streets, no
everywhere.
cars.
Yeah, it's like, but I'm like, no, like to be honest, like, and then I think the first thing that I would tell them, like to educate them, is that developing countries are usually called developing because it's not so much because the people are all like poor, but it's more like the income gap between the rich and the poor are very big. So like that's why you have a lot of poor people, and then the rich are extremely rich. So like, so obviously there will be like things that don't probably like look nicer than in America. So this is something that they have to like understand. But yeah, so I don't really have a lot of like useful experience, I guess, to share because a lot of them didn't actually know. And it's quite disappointing, but like not the type of disappointment that makes me mad. It's more like, oh, like I want to like promote my country more. Not, I mean, obviously I am proud to be Indonesians, like and it's just like a country that is like needs appreciation as much as other countries too, you know what I mean? Yeah. What about you guys? I mean, you can tell your stories. I mean, obviously, if they don't know Indonesia, you'll be like, you are basically
Oh,
in Indonesia.
I think I think most of the people here definitely know Indonesia, but I mean, there's definitely difference. The different group of people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are actually certain people that, Singapore is very close to Batam. Um, you can just take a ferry to that island very easily. So, but not a lot of people have actually visited Jakarta, so they maybe don't have like a bigger, like the true and correct picture of what Indonesia, I mean the capital city
Mm-hmm.
of Indonesia
Mm-hmm.
actually looks like. Batam is definitely doesn't represent Indonesia in the correct. I mean, it's definitely a small island.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I believe not everyone have actually been to Jakarta. If they actually see Jakarta, they will actually realize that, I mean, aside from the traffic, in terms of like shopping malls and like
Mm.
places, it's actually much similar to Singapore, even though I believe that, I mean, in terms of, again, public transportation and all, Singapore, I mean, we can compete with Singapore. But yeah, Jakarta, we do have like a lot of, it's developing countries. We have like skyscrapers as well. It's
Mm.
not like small island, and like,
Yeah.
and most people have been to Bali, and
Mm.
definitely Bali is something that is like, that Bali offers an experience that where they cannot get in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Places in Bali are very unique. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, most of them have been to Bali, but maybe not a lot have been to Jakarta, other than when they're, maybe attending weddings,
Mm-hmm.
or have
Mm.
some business purpose, for business purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I wish more people could actually visit Jakarta to actually see what
Mm-hmm.
the actual, capital of the city look like.
Yeah.
Um,
But like, do you, I mean, I don't know how is it like in terms of at work or something. Like, do you think that Singaporeans have certain stereotypes against
stereotype.
Indonesians? Like how
I
Indonesians
mean,
are
I've
so
never
hardworking.
actually, yeah, I've never actually experienced myself,
Okay.
but I've heard. I mean, some friends are actually talking. Even some of my Indonesian friends are talking. Like there are stereotypes where, like, oh, Indonesians, they actually do work very slowly. They cannot get the work done on time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe like, again, it's just like something that like I've heard people saying that, like, I could not work
Mm-hmm.
with, certain type of, people that, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm.
when I give them something to do, they cannot get it done on time. But then again, this kind of thing, it applies to everyone. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean
Yeah.
like applies to, like. But yeah, maybe some people have this kind of stereotypes about like the work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. So.
Okay. For me in Germany, um, I don't really know except just that one time when I was yeah, I mean they say that, oh, I've worked with Indonesians and they're usually pretty lazy and they are not working unless they need money or something.
There's no.
And then they said like, oh, you're actually kind of breaking that stereotypes because you're really hardworking one. And yeah,
Oh wow.
that was
That's
just
nice.
really a huge responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I think yeah, it's quite similar that people probably only know Bali, and I mean, I think most people already went to Bali before, and I know that other than Berlin, there are also in other cities, for example, in Hamburg, there is this group that plays um, what is it called? Gamelan.
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 Yeah, it's mostly Germans, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like okay, it's quite interesting to see, and also
Mm-hmm.
lead by a German person. So I guess it's quite appreciated here.
Right, right.
And we're kind of also famous among the Turkish community. So they're kind of like the largest group of immigrants in Germany. And I mean, they're really nice people. Just because like, oh, you're from Indonesia, you're like, like the largest
Yeah.
Muslim country in the world.
Yeah.
And that's how people really, even though they're Muslim, but they're still super nice to you just because
Yeah.
of that. And yeah.
You know what? Like, I guess like before we end this topic, right? Like, I kind of just want to like bring in. I think somebody mentioned this earlier, but like, this is the stereotypes about Indonesia, right? Indonesians by the locals, and
Mhm.
but what about the stereotypes about Indonesian by you? Like the Indonesians that actually live there. Is there like a stereotype that you notice, like the way they behave, that like immediately makes you click, like that's Indonesian, that's a group of Indonesian? I mean, that's interesting because for me, maybe it's also because I'm like interested in knowing Indonesian here.
Mhm.
I mean, just knowing, not necessarily like getting in touch or anything. Just like, oh, I just want to know, like, it's so. I mean, there are definitely stereotypes, right? Like, I feel like uh, they're very like, again, like they bring the Indonesian culture here, right? So they're
Yeah.
very commune, like, you know what I mean? Like they're always
Yeah.
together
They're
and
always
Right.
there
Yeah.
in a really big group
group.
of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe now that I'm older, I don't actually practice that, like being in the large groups of like friends going out together. But definitely when I was in university, when I was in Melbourne, we do actually behave that way. We have like groups of like 10 to 15 people like
Mhm.
eating together, and then we just like kind of like talk in the big groups among ourselves in our language, and then we go everywhere just like one pack together. I think that's
Yeah.
like the easiest,
Yeah.
like you can actually spot, oh, those are like that's a group of Indonesian kids
Yeah.
together. That's one thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean when that happened, that actually it's quite true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another one that I noticed is that I guess it's also because I knew the Indonesians that were in college. So all of us were also kind of young, right? Like maybe early 20s. I feel like many of them, especially the ones that don't necessarily live in San Francisco, I guess, were not really using the public transportation. Like I guess a lot of them also have their own cars.
Mhm.
So there was this one experience when we had like like one of those Indonesian gatherings. I think it was a sports tournament or something, and I had to go there. It was really far. It's actually like you have to take the train all the way there. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously a lot of them would drive there, but I took the train because I didn't have a car. And from the train station, I actually rode my bike. I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to, I guess. So I rode my bike, very, very unprofessional. I actually got into an accident, but I got there. Seriously, like it's so embarrassing. But like the accident happened like literally one block before I arrived. But luckily, nobody
Mhm.
actually saw me like falling off my bike. But like, anyway, I got there and everybody was extremely shocked. How did you get here? I'm like, I took the train and I rode my bike, and they're like, what? It's just like, what are you doing? Like it's almost something that is like out of their
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's like, but you're a girl, but you're taking a train, and then you're like riding your bike by yourself,
Yeah.
blah blah. And I'm just like, wow. It's like it's very nice. Like it's very nice that
Mhm.
they actually care about that, and like they actually like were the one that were busy like arranging rides home for me. Like
Mhm.
who's driving? Who can drive Sharon home? Blah blah blah. And they're like, oh, that's very nice. But I'm like, what's wrong with riding the train and then like riding my bike? It's just
Yeah.
like I feel like it's something that is like that's another thing about like Indonesian culture too. Like whenever you are able to like fit in, they automatically assume that you're a family, which is like
Yeah.
kind of nice sometimes. Like they would, even if you guys are not very close friends, they
Mhm.
automatically feel like they have this, especially the older versus the younger. Like there's that
Mhm.
like sort of family hierarchy. Like I'm your sister now because I'm older than you, and then like I'll
Yeah.
take care of you because you're like the baby in the group or whatever. So yeah, I feel like that's something about Indonesian. They're just like, oh yeah, like they're
Mhm.
always so like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess
Yeah.
loud as well. And
Like
it's something that
we're only starting to get quiet when the food comes and everybody starts eating.
Yeah.
Suddenly just like
Yeah.
what else about Indonesian? I feel like another thing is also it's probably the same for a lot of like international people too. It's like they love going to clubs. I didn't go to club a lot, but I
Okay.
used to live by like a club that was quite popular among Indonesian groups,
Mhm.
and it's just really interesting to like walk home from somewhere, you know, and then like I passed this club, and then a lot of people were like outside smoking cigarettes,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, there's always that group of Indonesian that was like, you know, already
Mhm.
smoking their cigarettes, because like smoking cigarettes is another thing. Like Indonesians smoke cigarettes, Americans hate cigarettes. Like
Oh, right. Yeah.
it's so weird. It's like to the point that whenever I used to smoke a little bit, right? It's like I never did it just because I didn't want to like make them feel uncomfortable, you know? But
Yeah.
like the way they talk about cigarettes is like, ew, disgusting, the smell. And then I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Indonesian literally smoke a pack a day. I'm just like, oh my
Mhm.
God, like, you know, it's
Yeah.
just so
no,
I guess
they actually rather save money on food rather than not buying a pack of
exactly
cigarettes.
Yeah.
exactly. It's just like yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
That's
liked it. I like it
yeah.
whenever like two cultures kind of like
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a really good point because over here, like it's pretty open. Like people are still smoking and they usually roll their own cigarettes.
Oh,
And they're just like, like they have their, if they can do it in one hand, just roll it like while talking and drinking beer. It's like amazing. It's a trick. Um,
Wow,
yeah.
that makes me want to smoke sometime. Whenever I go to back to Indonesia, I'm just like, stop smoking in front of me. You know, it just looks so
Mhm.
comfortable. You know, like, ugh.
Yeah. So do you get homesick? Yeah.
um, I do. I do now more than before because I
Okay.
guess at the beginning it was more like I was excited, you know, to be somewhere
Mm-hmm.
different and learning new things and everything. And only when I noticed that, you know, I run out of good food to try. I know it sounds really like ignorant, but like I
Yeah.
just need my Indonesian food, man. And it's like it really makes me feel homesick. Not just that the food is good, but it's also like I said, the culture, the street food culture, you know, like being able to just like casually just walk down the street and have like, you know, different things, you know, on the street. And then
Mm-hmm.
like being able to just like get out and I don't know, at night and without having to like necessarily arrange something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like here, maybe it's also the people that I, you know, used to hang out with. Um, we used to just plan, you know, like we plan to do something. It's never very much spontaneous. Like in
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia, um, I think another thing that is kind of similar now, but like translated to digital world is that, you know, COVID-19, right? Everybody has to stay home and it's so easy for them to like, hey, I'm making this. You want some? I'll go take it to you, you know, like right now. So
Yeah.
it's like there's like you don't feel very lonely, you know, like that super easy. Like my sister
Yeah.
received like food gifts from her friends from all over. And it's just like because
Yeah.
they want to. And here is like there's no such thing. There's no Gojek that can like just deliver
Mm-hmm.
your food, you know. There's like other services, but it's just not as spontaneous, you know. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it really makes me feel homesick. Sometimes I just feel like that's, you know, sense of individualism
Mm-hmm.
that I also learn a lot from kind of makes me feel homesick because I feel like people here, because of that, keeps a lot to themselves. That's why there's like, you know,
Yeah.
you appreciate my
Mm-hmm.
space, my time. So when I don't want to go out, don't ask me. But it's okay. Like it's totally fine. But like in Indo, it's almost like this could be like, you know, this could come off as rude, but like in Indo you can be like, what do you mean, no, get out now, I'm already outside your house. It sounds rude to
Yeah.
people, you know, but then
Yeah.
actually it makes you feel warm. And so it's like okay,
I
you know, like
want
oh fine.
it.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling, I feel like I miss that when I was in Indo. It made me feel precious, like oh my god, whenever they ask me to go I cannot say no anymore, you know. So
Yeah.
there's that
Yeah.
balance, right? Like yeah, I like it, but at the same time I miss that. Like now people are just like always just planning stuff, no
Yeah.
spontaneity, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. But again, it's just me, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
like a generalization of the whole population. It's just like
Yeah.
the people that I hang out with here, the
Yeah.
Americans. Yeah. What about you guys? Do you feel homesick?
Me.
I mean, to me, I feel like homesick. I think now, as you grow older, you realize that home is really where the people are. Like
Mhm.
whenever you are with your loved ones, that's like where your home is. Because like I think it's also
Oh.
probably because like if
Oh, so
really
where's
it's
your loved one, Nee? Where's your
my parents.
Mm.
Just kidding.
No, to bring to my parents, like, yes, definitely I get homesick. That's why I always go back. Like, I always try, and then I realized that time is really something that you cannot get back. That's why,
Mhm.
even though it's just for like just for a weekend, sometimes you need to spend a lot of money
Mhm.
just to buy a flight ticket home. I would not like
Mhm.
want to miss like birthdays
Mhm.
or whatever
Mhm.
celebration is, because like that time is something that you cannot get back. And then even though you're just spending time, probably you just won't be doing anything, you just like
Mhm.
but at least you get to see your parents
Mhm.
in person.
Mhm.
That's why I actually sympathize you guys, that I know that it must be really hard for you guys not to meet physically with your family. But um yeah, I guess uh, but now definitely we couldn't go anywhere, so
Yep.
we have to
Yeah.
rely a lot on technology to to just like
Mhm.
continue talking to them, like keep them, yeah, like. And then I do get homesick about a lot about the Indonesian food, definitely. Like I still cannot, okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, Singapore food is awesome, it's good, there's
Mhm.
like a lot of variety, but my favorite food is still like in Indonesia, like in Jakarta. I still cannot like get that perfect noodle that I really love in Jakarta
About
anymore.
me?
Here, bakmi, yes. and
Yeah.
like some others, it's just like it's the same kind of thing, but it tastes different, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and definitely when you reach Indonesia, no matter how long have you have left that country, the moment you reach Indonesia, you know that it's home. Like the
Yeah.
people,
Mhm.
yeah, you just feel more, yeah. So I guess, yeah, I could say that I every now and then I felt homesick.
Mhm.
But I'm thankful that I'm living in Singapore, because like again, it's pretty similar to Indonesia in terms of like the people.
Mhm.
You still kind of feel like there's, to me, there's not like a lot of differences like
Mhm.
Mhm.
within living. Maybe when I
Yeah.
was in Australia, that's definitely a huge difference.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
anything to
Do
add?
you feel homesick, chick?
Me?
Do you feel homesick?
Um, not really, I guess. I
Nah.
mean,
You enjoy living in Berlin, huh?
I mean, I yeah,
Miss
I
the
also
bread.
meet, yeah, I just miss, I miss the bread. I mean, just a simple white
The
bread
bread.
without the border.
Oh, the one where they actually like squeeze it and then like cut the
Yeah,
border.
yeah,
Do
I
you know what
love
I'm talking
it.
about? It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Besides the food, I mean, it's also quite interesting one because every time I met an Indonesian, and especially if they're from East Java, and they're gonna ask me, "Oh, you're also from Surabaya, so
Mm,
where where from Surabaya are you?" And that's just like a really hard question to answer because if I think about it, I mean, I know it should not be that hard to answer this because like I can just say, because like my parents also moved from one area to another, and I don't have a room in
Yeah.
my parents' home anymore. I don't have my stuff there, so it's really hard to answer. Like I usually just answer where my parents are now,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that's not where I grew up. That's
Mhm.
not the part of Surabaya that I grew up in. So yeah,
Oh, you're right. You're
right?
right.
You know what I
actually,
mean?
I'm
talking
the
about room.
same.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
talking about room. I do still have a room. Uh, but my brother kind of don't have a room anymore. So if the two of us actually go back together, we probably sleep in the same room. Like
Really?
it's just like we don't really have, because like we haven't been living there for like years, like literally almost like 10 years plus, right?
Yeah.
So what is your brother's room for now?
They kind of like
Storage?
A gym.
A gym?
like forget like how my brother like how my house actually looked like, but yeah, my brother doesn't have a room anymore, so
You're the one who went back like the most before COVID, and you're
Yeah.
like don't even remember your room.
That's where the dog lives now, is it?
yeah, Mark, like my
Yeah.
brother, like he went back even lesser than me, like probably just once a year, so he's like definitely not living there anymore. I'm still like living there like every now and then,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
is so true. I could totally relate to Chiquita saying that, because your family moved from one place to the other. And that happened to me too. Like, so there was actually one house where they had lived in for like a couple of years that I didn't ever go to because, I didn't go back for like 3 years. So it's like, do I call that my house? Like, it's not really my,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know that house, and it's just really weird. I guess like the last two times I went back, it was the same house. So I was trying to like, okay, this feels like home-ish, like a little bit, at least this area. But it's like my childhood house is like gone. So I'm like, it just really it feels really weird. Like and then now like we're actually moving out of like slightly outside Jakarta. So I'm just like, so is Jakarta still like my home now? Like, it's just
it's still
really
your
weird,
home.
It is
Yeah.
still my home, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm kind of sad because, um, if you ask me like, do you consider the country I live in as a home now? Yes, definitely. Like whenever I'm out, like let's say I'm out of this house, right? For a weekend or like maybe like staying over somewhere else. And I was like, I want to go home and I feel comfortable whenever I reach home. But when I compare this to like being with actually like I think Granny said, the people like my family, this doesn't feel like home. Like sometimes it just doesn't feel like home. I don't know. It's a very complicated feeling, I feel like. It's like whenever I was in Indo, do I ever feel like, oh, I can't wait to go back home as in America? That's like a very weird feeling, like
Yeah.
do I say like I can't wait to go back home to Indonesia, or when I'm in Indonesia, I'm like I can't wait to go back home in America. So I don't know. It's like I feel like at this point I'm sort of like in between, like in a limbo. I don't know. Like
Right.
there's not really, yeah.
I definitely do
So
feel the same. Sometimes I feel like, I don't really belong anywhere. Like, in Indo, yes, I do have my parents who live there, but do I really actually belong there? Like, if you go back, you still need to, let's say if I decided
Yeah.
to, okay, I just want to leave everything, I want to go back to Indonesia to just live, you still gotta need to readapt, and it's even, you need to adapt even more harder over there, because like you've never lived there, you don't know like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like how people actually work, how Indonesians that actually work, how about like, working
Yeah.
Mm.
working environment and whatnot. So, but then in Singapore, I consider this as my home as well, like my second home, definitely. But then again, if you think about it, I'm alone here. So is this really my home? So is this like
Yeah.
a lot of like I feel like a lot of like
Conflict.
like yeah, confused, like where is your home actually?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point you brought up about, like what if we, go back and then, start living there, and, like it's funny how we identify ourselves as Indonesian, but it's also something that I realize when I hang out with my Indonesian friends, because I don't really speak Indonesian that well. Now that I realize how, like how they talk, and I can't even get a sentence out in like just all Indonesian, right? We tried that before.
Yeah.
And also like, they know a lot about the culture, the pop culture, the like the simple things like the music, what's new, and or like the stand-up comedians, like it's yes, I'm really totally lost there, and
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
feel like, do I still consider myself as Indonesian?
In,
Because it's weird, especially like
exactly.
we have the same experience because we grew up kind of in Singapore, right?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I think that's why a lot of like I just learned this term like maybe a couple years ago. My friends use them all the time. They call people that experiences as third culture
Yeah,
people, third culture
kids.
kids. I think they call
Yeah,
them kids, third culture kid. But it's like they a lot of them actually share very similar sentiments. Like they're confused, they're slightly sad, almost like like they don't feel like they really belong
yeah,
anywhere.
yeah.
Um, it's really crazy because when I was in Australia for like less than a year, I made the time to meet up with like a childhood classmate. He wasn't really like a good friend of mine, but like we knew each other and we thought like, hey, you just came to Australia to study here. I was already there, so like let's just meet up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like having a very uncomfortable time with him, even though it was just like a dinner. And he actually said something like, that I feel like Indonesian kids or Jakarta kids, I guess he was also from Jakarta, that didn't actually study abroad were actually wilder. I don't know. I mean, I guess he was like, very, very naive as well, like 18-year-old trying to like, talk about the lifestyle of like, you know, postgraduates just, finish high school. So they're all
Yeah,
doing like crazy shit.
yeah.
And I'm just like, I was so confused. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know anything about like what in like 18-year-old, SMA kids doing, like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. And I was just like, okay, I was in Singapore. All I knew was like studying for O levels all the time and like,
Yeah,
being with you guys and like doing like, I don't know, dumb shit, like going to Chom Chom at 12. Like it was just that.
yeah.
And then like it was mostly like what Singaporeans usually do. I think we were very good at like actually like adapting to Singaporean culture. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really know what Indonesian really did. So like whenever he brought up something that is like really foreign to me, I felt very detached. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my god, like did you just basically like take away my Jakarta card? Like literally he like robbed it.
yeah,
Like you don't know what Jakarta kids do. Like
yeah.
you're not as cool as I mean that there's that vibe, right? I'm just like, okay, fuck. Like, like that's crazy. I think that was like the first time I realized the way like they grew up is just like actually quite different. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Until now, I'm still learning a lot. And then a lot of these third culture kids actually felt the same way. It's just like, you know, they are so used to representing Indonesians in a different country and they don't
Mm-hmm.
longer know who they are. Because here they're actually Indonesians in a different,
Yeah.
abroad. But then in Indonesia, they're like this kid that almost never spent time, in Indonesia or really grew up in Indonesia. So they're like,
Mm-hmm.
shit, like I'm a diplomat, I guess, we're just going around and like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
it actually made me kind of sad, like to understand, like I feel like I missed out a little bit. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on to the next point. What is the biggest difference between living abroad and vacationing abroad? So vacation versus actually living.
Oh, I mean, that's easy. It's definitely so different. Like last time when I was younger, when I vacationed to Singapore, you know, Singapore is just such a wonderful country. You can shop a lot there. It's just like everything is just so much more fun, convenient, and all. You can, we go to Singapore to actually just, our sole purpose is just to eat and shop and just having fun. But when you started actually working here, you can see the country in a different, like from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see like, definitely you get a lot more stress, like from being. I mean, it's not like always a vacation city, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah, and also maybe when you just visit this place for a few days, you cannot really adapt with the local culture here,
Mm-hmm.
maybe with the you know definitely for vacation you only here staying for like a few days um as a tourist, but when you live here, I think the good thing is that you can actually learn more. I mean, you can actually interact more with the local people.
Yeah.
It's basically not only Singapore, basically it's everywhere you get to
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so yeah, I think that's to me that's just one of the biggest difference between
Yeah,
vacationing
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
living there.
I agree. I mean, I remember one time there was this person on Instagram. So this person is Indonesian, and she visited Berlin and ran for the Berlin Marathon. And then on the caption,
Mm.
she said like, "Oh, I guess now I'm a Berliner." I'm like, "Dude, you've never seen Berlin the way I do." It's like you see literally shits on the street, on the metro. It's everywhere. You've never
Mhm.
seen Berlin like I do. Um, yeah.
I know. Oh my God. Um, that I feel like, yeah, I mean, America is like super heavily represented on like modern media, I feel like, and people have like this flawed idea of what America is. Um, Not necessarily a good or bad thing. I feel like it's neutral, like definitely, we three of us definitely grew up with American Western media, like Western entertainment, right? We watch Disney or whatever, like Tom and
Mhm.
Jerry. Is Tom and Jerry American? I think it is American, right? And just like movies. All of your favorite movies are probably made
Yeah,
Hollywood. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like coming here definitely. It's just like this is different. It's not even San Francisco. It's not all Golden Gate Bridge. It's not all. I don't even know anything else about San Francisco other than Golden Gate Bridge and maybe like the song. Like I left my heart in San Francisco. But like
Mhm.
the truth about San Francisco is so different. Like people there live. People have to live there too. It's just like
Mhm.
everyday's life. People still go to work. People struggle.
Yeah.
Like there's, and I feel like the biggest thing that I notice now is that as you live abroad, like you have no choice but to be involved in the issues, in the politics, in the cultural,
Yeah.
social, sort of, what do you call it, like basically all this change your perspective of what like a nice place to vacation
Mhm.
for, because whenever you think of vacation you think of like you know exploring the places. It's nice
Yeah.
and it's like taking photos in front of like famous places, but then um yeah, living is definitely different.
Mhm.
Like you start seeing it's almost like a relationship, right? Like just going past the honeymoon dates, I mean the honeymoon like period, like now you
Yeah.
start seeing like the uglies and like the not so nice,
Mhm.
and but it will enrich your experience in general.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's a really good thing that you said about politics and engaging in like local issues, and
Mhm.
I think this was also something that I experienced before here. That the Berlin is quite international. There are a lot of people from all over the world here, but then not many of them really speak German or like really integrate into the society. For example, when I remember I went to a demonstration with my friend, he's German, and then he tried to calculate. So how many people do you think came to the demonstrations? I think it was like 50,000 people. So how many people? So
Whoa.
like he's really like statistics. So he tried to calculate how many people living in Berlin, how many came there, and so on. But then I realized at that time I was living with in a flat share and with Italians, and I was like, I remember about this group of people who are living here, but they don't speak German, and comparing them to someone like me, like immigrants and speak German who also care about this stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's there. These international group, they're like, still living in a bubble, and
Mhm.
and there are actually a lot of them. So yeah, it's something about integration. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
it's also I feel sometimes a bit torn because I can't vote yet, and at the same time,
Mhm.
whenever I vote for Indonesian election, I just feel like, yeah, I mean, it's for my family, but then like I don't feel the benefit. It's sometimes just, yeah, I feel torn a bit. I also don't follow
Yeah.
the Indonesian politics, so that's the thing.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to follow every politics in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the truth. I try to educate myself as much as I can, like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
just by asking my parents, any good news, any bad news, any news at all, and then they would
Mm-hmm.
like fill me in. But then for the most part, we're just trying to do our best. And like I feel that it's a responsibility that we have as a residents of a country,
Mm-hmm.
to also integrate ourselves, have the initiative to do
Yeah.
that. That's why I
Yeah.
feel like it's good to sort of like, especially if you already live somewhere for like more than a couple of years, to pull away from the tourist mentality. You know what I mean? Like you're not there because you're having fun there. Like you still
Yeah.
have to help your community. This is now your community. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No matter who you are, even though you're an immigrant,
Yeah.
I don't care. But that's your community. You still help them. So it's not like I've seen this, but again, this is something that I experienced way back in Singapore actually. Like there were Indonesian friends that would be like, why do you care about Singapore issues? We're not Singaporeans. And I'm like, how can you not care? We live
Mm-hmm.
here. We enjoy the benefits that the government actually give out
Yeah.
to the people.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
how can you say that we shouldn't care about some issue? I just feel like it's a very irresponsible
Sure.
mentality. You know what I
I
mean? And
yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
no, it's okay. So what is it?
No, I actually agree with that. Like with your point earlier, because like I realized that maybe when you were younger here, when you just studying for secondary school and all, you play with a lot of Indonesian friends. We don't actually mingle with a lot of
Mhm.
Singaporeans. It's just that we are lucky that we go to a school where there are actually a lot of international students, and then the Singaporeans are actually more accepting like to us, and we
Mm-hmm.
can actually be friends,
Yeah.
be close friends with them. But I realized that there's actually people that likes to mingle among their groups of maybe like among Indonesians, and not really like mingle with the rest. But now
Mm-hmm.
as I return here to their country, I work in their country, I actually more appreciative of the Singaporeans. Like I actually like to mingle. I don't consider them as like someone who is like different. It's just like I consider them as the same as us.
Yep.
It's like I want to be friends with equally with people who came from the same nationality, and also with the Singaporeans, and basically everyone that I feel comfortable hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think that's just like that's definitely something that I learned the longer I live here. It's just like my Indonesian friends are the same as my home country friends, are actually the same as my friends who are of another
Yep.
nation, just like Singaporeans, which is like, yeah, because
Yep.
we live
Absolutely.
in their country eventually. I mean, after all, and then we actually, I mean, they've treated us the same. Like I felt,
Yeah.
so we shouldn't differentiate. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So we are at the end.
So we are at the end. I think this is also like the one of the last and probably most powerful question. So what is the most valuable lesson you learned from living abroad? Anyone wants to start?
Mm.
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, okay, this is just like something that I realized, the one of the most valuable lesson to me, it's to be independent. I mean, independent not in terms of like you're living alone, but also to plan your future more independently in terms of financially, like because when I first graduated, before I had my first job, my mindset was before I actually moved here was just like, oh, working is just for an experience. I don't really care about the money, because I think we were just so used to our parents providing us with a lot of things, like just making sure that we have everything. We never actually thought about living and supporting yourself
Mm-hmm.
alone. But ever since I actually moved back here, I actually see a lot of local people. They're actually really independent. They're young, and they actually uh, have such like visions of like what they want to do about their career, how they actually manage financially,
Mm-hmm.
how you can actually support this, how do I actually plan
Mm-hmm.
to so that I'll be able to in the future buy a house, or my own place, this kind of thing. So the more I see these kind of people, the more I actually hang out with them, it actually inspires me to do the same. Like, you cannot always be irresponsible and does do like someone who is does not have plan. You still need to start thinking about this as early as possible, in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
saving money, and also what do you want to do in the future, where do you want to settle in, like what's your vision, like do you actually, if you want to settle in Singapore, do you want to buy, do you actually want to plan to buy something on your own, maybe like a
Mm-hmm.
house, or build a family, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually it the the older I mean, it just makes me think a lot about my future by seeing people have doing that. My friends of the same
Mm-hmm.
age, they usually have already had this kind of thinking, which is, I think, is pretty
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Like, they're very
Yeah.
independent, and doesn't mean that their
Mm-hmm.
parents doesn't support them. It's just like they have their own parents who support them, but they
Mm-hmm.
have the mentality to, oh, I also need to stand up on my own feet, which is like very, very, very impressive, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like, for me, like one of the valuable lesson that I learned.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I feel like to add to that, like, um, also, just I don't know why, but I really believe that exposure is one of the most important
Yeah.
lesson. I mean, a way to like learn just about empathy in general. Like, because to understand other people, to know how they are, to put yourself in their shoes, right? Like, that's like one of the probably most effective way of learning about people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, I mean, you probably cannot like really put yourself in anybody else's shoes, but like, by living in that country, right? By living somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to see not just about how they are, but also like how
Mm-hmm.
others view them, and also how our countries view them, like
Yeah.
stuff like that, just kind of, um, you have also, I feel like it gives you a way to compare,
Mm-hmm.
not for negative purposes, but more like to understand, the importance of diversity in general.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, like things here are very different.
Yeah.
Home,
Yeah.
maybe like Indonesia is like this,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and hopefully it's something that I hope to do is like to be able to inspire others to understand that, like there's just like every country, everywhere, different type of people all around the world have their own like sort of like types of problems, and like for you to be able to like learn something from that, and like it's just, I don't know, I feel like it's extremely valuable. I
Mm-hmm.
find myself I find myself kind of just like going back and like being more appreciative of what, like, I've been taught as a child, in Indonesia, for example. And then
Mm-hmm.
like whenever I speak to somebody here that probably, is not as fortunate in like being able to experience living abroad, it's nice to be able to just like have the conversation, right? And then they would
Mm-hmm.
be like, just by having that conversation and then offering them a different, perspective, just because you already experienced the other perspective, it's really cool. It's like, oh my God, like the world is really big and there's so much to learn. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess like that's like very, very valuable for me,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Um. Yeah. I mean, I guess I would like to add to that. I mean, this probably just a small things, but I think it's good that you're, like it's good for your self and personal development. You get out of your comfort zone where you're um not necessarily maybe belong to a minority group, you know, like it kind of it humbles you down, and yeah, respect other people more, you know what I mean, like and then I guess in terms of the comfort zone, it's like I think I was definitely a different person, especially as a, I mean, before moving here, like as a young Indonesian girl, it's always, um, I feel like it's a totally different culture where I guess I wasn't really uh, taught to speak up.
Mm,
Everything's
mm,
kind of like given to me, or you know, everything's being taken care of. And over here, I kind of have to, you know, like speak up and say what I want to other people,
mm-hmm,
and in
mm-hmm.
different languages. So
Yeah.
it's really, really hard, but it's insanely amazing after you, yeah, go through all the journey, all the ups and downs, and yeah.
Yeah. That is, yeah. So I feel like definitely the three of us are very fortunate to be able to experience something like this. You know,
Mhm,
like we know majority of people in the world can't. And I don't know what's the future of, like, us, but I mean, the world, but I just really hope that, everybody is given the opportunity to at
mhm,
least, maybe not necessarily live abroad, but like our previous, not previous, like I think one of our past podcasts is just like traveling, the
yeah.
importance of just being able to like go somewhere and like see things
Mhm,
from a different perspective, and learning how, yeah, I feel like independence, definitely, like the independence, and then like that sort of like multiple perspective, and learning new values that you didn't necessarily wasn't necessarily taught as,
mhm,
as a kid when you were in Indonesia. um, yeah, they're very, very, very valuable, and I can't help but like feel grateful that we are able to do what
yeah.
we are doing now. um yeah. So, and also another thing is that I realize we are just more open-minded in general, because we've already experienced, like, let's say, two, quite different cultures, in our life. Like, even for her, like she studied in Melbourne and also like in the UK for a little bit, and then like
Mhm,
being able to like experience like such different culture from like
Sure.
literally opposite part
mhm,
of the world, is just like, whenever you hear, let's say, right, like a story about um Afghan people saying that, oh my God, the way the media portrays Afghanistan is wrong, you like
yeah.
immediately know that, yeah, it is totally wrong, because I know how they portray Indonesia, for example. But like a
Mhm,
lot of people that didn't have that ability to like immediately understand that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, because they don't necessarily have experienced anything other than what they are, they have. It's like,
mhm,
so it's like, I feel like the open-mindedness that we kind of like gain through this experience is like, oh my God, like I'm so happy.
yeah.
I'm very proud of us, like being able to like be where we are now. Anyway, why is it so emotional towards the
Yeah,
end?
namaste.
Oh my God, did you just cultural appropriate something?
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much our podcast today. How long did we spend today? I didn't even know. How long has it
Yeah,
been?
I have no
But
idea.
it should end now before we talk too much nonstop. Probably we'll still talk for another 5 hours, but we have to say we have to say goodbye to our ghost viewers right now. We don't know, but thank you so much. If you are watching this in the future somehow, our friends. Yay, stop. But
Okay.
we're really grateful that we're able to do this,
Yeah.
even if
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is a fun thing to do, just even among the three of us.
Mhm.
Bye. Wait, hold on. I have to do this smoothly.
Oh my
Wait, how do
God.
I?
Couldn't start smoothly and it couldn't like end smoothly as well. It's always like
Wait, hold on. I seriously don't know how to stop this. Huh? Stop yet? Guys, give me 1 second.
okay.
Okay.
I can still see the live icon.
You can still see the live.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Dang, I actually don't know. I think they
But you have to
changed.
go to YouTube.
They change it. Hold on. This is so awkward. I'm sorry. I think we can edit this out. Hopefully. That yeah. Mm. Oh my god, I can't. I can't stop it.